right. So today I am back at electrical. My son's getting his wisdom teeth out, so I'm on my own, pulling wire and doing all that. I'm fiddling with my laser. I've never used it before. To try and get a basic 8-inch above the box height for going around and drilling my holes in the walls to run for outlets. So this is the most tedious part for me of electrical, is drilling all these dumb holes. So after drilling out 2 rooms now, I love this laser for this little test like this. Honestly, I've never used it before, so I didn't know if it would be worth it to spend the $400 for it, but we'll use it for all right. Something I've decided to do. So I ran power a line over from our panel up and over and dropped down straight to this outlet in the master bedroom. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run each bedroom as 4 different circuits with the power and the lights on the same circuit. So I'll drop in, run the power, and then pop up to the switch, and then run the lights. And I just think that'll be a cleaner, easier setup for me using this 12-2 wire throughout the house. And I mean, there's arguments for and against all sorts of different layouts, and I've read them all. And so this is just for me and my setup and the materials I have and the layout of my house. I think this is what I'm gonna do. So I'm starting to, I got the power into my first outlet box, and I'm starting to circle around the room, hitting the outlets. As I label mine, I mean, I leave about 6 inches out. Maybe that's too much, but that's what I'm doing. And I'll label them, you know, this is the power in to this box. And then I always, up inside, deeper in there, I'll put like a P-IN, power in, so that, again, just in case that gets cut or smeared, or I have somebody helping me and they start, which happened before with me, a friend, a relative was like, hey, I'll go around and prep each of the outlet wires and you'll be good to go. And I said, okay. And there were some that had multiple wires coming in and going out. And he spliced them, cut them, curled all the tips, and had the wires sitting out there and rolled them all back, or left them sticking out. And I was like, all my labels are gone. I don't know what's power in, power out, and all that stuff. I know some guys are always like, come in, power in from the top and power out bottom, or whatever. Anyway, so from that point on, I always reach back up there, and where I know he's not going to be cutting and splicing, and jot just a quick little note, not the full written out version, but just in case, because once these walls are closed up, sometimes it's tricky figuring out what cable is what if somebody takes your labels off. So I did the same thing on the panel lights or circuits coming in, as I labeled down at the bottom of the runs, and then up, way up high where maybe the top of the panel will be, I jotted a second note just in case the ends get cut off. Having this deal is pretty sweet. I had a few leftover smaller rolls that I was using for this room from our house build over there and past remodel projects in different houses. But being able to carry this thing around is pretty nice. So it just moves easily, and we can pull off these 2,000-foot rolls to do all these connections and stuff where we start jumping instead of these long runs through the ceiling. All right, I think I've got the master bedroom wired for the most part. I haven't done the cove heaters yet. I'm gonna do that probably last after I wire everything. For the whole house, I'll do the cove heaters last. So as I showed before, I ran power in and dropped it into the outlet. And then I ran, so we've got first outlet And power going out over to this double outlet next to the nightstand. And then power coming across another outlet on the other side of the bed. Power across, another outlet. Power across, another outlet. Power across, and I decided just to capture the closet while I was at it, the big walk-in. So I grabbed that outlet in the line, came back across, grabbed this outlet, and then I'm doing the lights off of the outlets. So I jumped over and dropped down into the closet, and I'll have that power going up to the light with switched power, and then I'll pigtail off a power to keep the circuit going. And I jumped over, and we just have this short section of wall in the master, and I picked up that outlet again in the circuit, and then jumped up and over and dropped down into this 2-switch box. One switch is for our lights, and the other switch is for the fan. I still need to put the bracketry and the housing in for that. So I crisscrossed the floor, found the point, and then just wrapped my wire up in there with a little bit of extra. So I ran my first non-12-2 wire, and that's this 10-2, and it's for the water heater. And it's a short, easy run, so I just bought a package of 25 feet, and I just dropped that down here into this compartment for the water heater. And then I'll figure out, I gotta watch a couple videos of it needs to be protected coming out of the wall or the ceiling in some type of conduit, so I'll sort that out. That's in place. So my first non-12-2. Buying the 12-3, I bought my first roll of 12-3. Just that roll of 100 feet was $219 at the local place. And I had read, the 14, if you can run 14 gauge wire, do so, because it's cheaper than 12 gauge, and especially for these long runs between shared switches. So like the 3-way and 4-way switches. I only have 3-way switches because I just wanted to keep it simple for me. But yeah, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that'll get me. I only have 3 runs of 12-3, so that should get me all of the house. I might have to buy some more for the garage 3-way switch. We'll see. Just pulling this 3-way wire, this 12-3 wire for the 3-way switches. Pulling it out of these coils like that is just night and day different from pulling off that nice spool that just rolls so easy. You're fighting it way more. It's better to have 2 people with these dumb things. Other thing, it's been several years since I wired, and I had forgotten about the different capacities of these boxes. And when I bought 100 of them at Home Depot or whatever, and then put them all in quickly, I forgot you want the larger capacity box. So I think this is 18, and there's up to 22 cubic something. And so I'm putting the 22s in. I'm just replacing these smaller ones. And you can see the size difference there. And when you have multiple wires in one box, or you've got a 3-way switch that has the bigger wire, it's just nicer having that extra space. In fact, there's times on these smaller boxes where if you've got 3 wires, so you're pigtailing off or something like that somewhere, it's on this 12 gauge wire, it's darn near impossible to get them smashed back in there and put your switch or your outlet or whatever back in. That's another argument for using 14. at least mixing it in somewhere, because it's so much more malleable. It's so much easier to bend, and it takes up theoretically less space than the 12-2s. The 12-2 feels like iron, like you're bending iron sometimes. And to cram all those wires back into the box and then put your outlet on your switch with all 12 is tough sometimes. So if you do have multiple 12-2 wires, or even a 12-3 mixed in, throw your larger capacity boxes on there, those 22 CU or whatever they are. Something I forgot. Here's a better, I just went and grabbed one side by side of those things. So you've got so much more depth to, it's almost 3/4 of an inch extra space to cram wires into the back there. It's so nice just switching this thing on in a room, and then just that's about 9 inches above the box. So I drill just below it, and that puts me about the 8 inches that is recommended. But it's so much easier than having uneven lines, because the benefit of not having unevenness is in your drill holes is when you go to pull line, if it's uneven, then it just makes pulling it so difficult. But if they're all flush straight across, it pulls right through. I was just zipping line through by myself in the master with this straight line. That way you don't have to go around with the measuring tape and a pencil and mark each one to get that evenness. This laser's pretty slick. Man, I can't wait to be in this house. The views are awesome. As soon as I get that dirt. All right, so we've run 1,000 feet of wire. First 1,000. As I'm finishing up this master bath, I've got 2 more quick jumps to do. But I've done the whole master bedroom, the whole mudroom, laundry room, the whole guest bathroom, the whole pantry, almost the whole kitchen, and almost the whole master bath and master closet. So I have 3 bedrooms, the living room. I've run quite a bit of wire in the garage, but I still have quite a few more runs to go. I think we will probably burn through the other 1,000 pretty easily, and hopefully we don't have to buy any more. But it's going smooth. 2 full days of wiring, and I would guess I'm at least halfway through. So progress is going well, I feel like. The only frustration is having to swap out these smaller boxes with the bigger ones. If you're gonna do predominantly 12 gauge wire, just buy all big boxes. If there's just a single connection, or it's the end box in a run, it's not gonna be problematic. But if it's just hard to squeeze that tough wire in those boxes if they're not a little bit bigger. So anyway, it's going smooth, and I'm just gonna run these last 2 lines, and then I think I'm gonna call it a day. Here at the end, I was just gonna pull a little more wire off this new, and I kind of dropped it a little bit, and it cracked this little piece in here. So now it just goes clunk, 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 and it doesn't pull as freely. And I don't know that it will pull freely enough for me to just run wires by myself. So that's frustrating. So be careful when you set those down.